Blessed Jacobus de Voragine. Voragine was an Italian chronicler and archbishop of Genoa. He was the author, or more accurately the compiler, of Legenda Aurea, the Golden Legend, a collection of the legendary lives of the greater saints of the medieval church that was one of the most popular religious works of the Middle Ages. Biography. Jacobi was born in Voragine, on the Ligurian coast between Savona and Genoa. He entered the Dominican order in 1244, and became the prior at Como, Bologna and Asti in succession. Besides preaching with success in many parts of Italy, he also taught in the schools of his own fraternity. He was provincial of Lombardy from 1267 till 1286, when he was removed at the meeting of the order in Paris. He also represented his own province at the councils of Lucca and Ferrara. On the last occasion he was one of the 4 delegates charged with signifying Pope Nicholas IV's desire for the deposition of Munio de Zamora, who had been master of the Dominican order from 1285 and was eventually deprived of his office by a papal bull dated April 12, 1291. In 1288 Nicholas empowered him to absolve the people of Genoa for their offense in aiding the Sicilians against Charles II. Early in 1292 the same pope, himself a Franciscan, summoned Jacobus to Rome, intending to consecrate him Archbishop of Genoa. Jacobus reached Rome on Palm Sunday, only to find his patron ill of a deadly sickness, from which he died on Good Friday. The cardinals, however, propter honorem communis January, determined to carry out this consecration on the Sunday after Easter. He was a good bishop, and especially distinguished himself by his efforts to appease the civil discords of Genoa among Guelphs and Ghibellines. A story mentioned by the chronicler Meister Eckhart as unworthy of credit makes Pope Boniface VIII, on the first day of Lent, cast the ashes in the archbishop's eyes instead of on his head, with the words, "Remember that thou art a Ghibelline, and with thy fellow Ghibellines wilt return to naught." He died in 1298 or 1299, and was buried in the Dominican church at Genoa. He was beatified by Pius VII in 1816. Works. Jacobus de Varagine left a list of his own works. Speaking of himself in his Chronicon Januense, he says, while he was in his order, and after he had been made archbishop, he wrote many works. He compiled the legends of the saints in one volume, adding many things from the Historia Tripartita e Scholastica, and from the chronicles of many writers. The other writings he claims are 2 anonymous volumes of sermons concerning all the saints whose yearly feasts the Church celebrates. Of these volumes, he adds, one is very diffuse, but the other short and concise. Then follow sermones de omnibus evangeliis dominicalibus for every Sunday in the year, sermones de omnibus evangeliis, i.e. a book of discourses on all the Gospels, from Ash Wednesday to the Tuesday after Easter, and a treatise called Marialis, qui totus est labi, Maria Compositis, consisting of about 160 discourses on the attributes, titles, etc. of the Virgin Mary. In the same work the Archbishop claims to have written his Chronicon Januense in the 2nd year of his episcopate, but it extends to 1296 or 1297. To this list his biographer Giovanni Munleone adds several other works, such as a defense of the Dominicans, printed at Venice in 1504, and a Summa Virtutum Vitiorum Guilhelmi Peraldi, a Dominican who died in 1271. Jacobus is also said by Sixtus of Siena to have translated the Old and New Testaments into his own tongue. But, adds the historian of the Dominican order Jacobus, if he did so, the version lies so closely hid that there is no recollection of it, and it may be added that it is highly improbable that the man who compiled the Golden Legend ever conceived the necessity of having the scriptures in the vernacular. The Golden Legend, one of the most popular religious works of the Middle Ages, is a collection of the legendary lives of the greater saints of the medieval church. The preface divides the ecclesiastical year into 4 periods corresponding to the various epochs of the world's history: a time of deviation, of renovation, of reconciliation, and of pilgrimage. The book itself, however, falls into 5 sections: from Advent to Christmas, from Christmas to Septuagesima, from Septuagesima to Easter, from Easter Day to the octave of Pentecost, from the octave of Pentecost to Advent. The saints' lives are full of fanciful legend, and in not a few cases contain accounts of 13th-century miracles wrought at special places, particularly with reference to the Dominicans. The penultimate chapter, De Sancto Pelagio Papa, contains a universal history from the point of view of Lombardy, or Historia Lombardica, for the middle of the 6th century. The last is a somewhat allegorical disquisition on the dedication of churches, De Dedicatione Ecclesiae. The Golden Legend was translated into Catalan in the 13th century, and a first dated version was published in Barcelona in 1494. A French version was made by Jacobus de Varagine in the 14th century. A Latin edition is assigned to about 1469, and a dated one was published at Lyon in 1473. Many other Latin editions were printed before the end of the century. A French translation by Master John Batillier is dated 1476. Jean de Venise appeared at Paris 1488. An Italian one by Nick Manerby, a Czech one at Pilsen 1475 to 1479, and at Prague 1495. Caxton's English versions 1483, 1487, and 1493, and a German one in 1489. All in all, during the first 5 decades of printing in Europe, editions of the Legenda Aurea appeared about 2 a year. Almost as popular were Jacobus's collected sermons, also termed Aurea. Several 15th-century editions of the sermons are also known, and the Mariale was printed at Venice in 1497 and at Paris in 1503. Beside Legenda Aurea, his other chief work is the Chronicon Januense, partly printed in Muratori. It is divided into 12 parts. The first 4 deal with the mythical history of Genoa from the time of its founder, Janus, called the first king of Italy, and its enlarger, a second Janus, citizen of Troy, till its conversion to Christianity, about 25 years after the Passion of Christ. Part V professes to treat of the beginning, growth and perfection of the city, but of the first period the writer candidly confesses he knows nothing except by hearsay. The second period includes the Genoese crusading exploits in the east and extends to the victory over the Pisans, while the third reaches down to the author's days as archbishop. The 6th part deals with the constitution of the city, the 7th and 8th with the duties of rulers and citizens, the 9th with those of domestic life, the 10th gives the ecclesiastical history of Genoa from the time of its first known bishop, St. Valentine, whom we believe to have lived about 530 AD, till 1133, when the city was raised to archiepiscopal rank. The 11th contains the lives of all the bishops in order, and includes the chief events during their episcopates. The 12th deals in the same way with the archbishops, not forgetting the writer himself. Marian views. Voragine is relevant to Mariology in light of his numerous Marian sermons. Sermones de Sanctis per Circulum Anni Felicita and his Laudes Vitae Mariae Virginis. He describes the miracles of Mary and explains specific local medieval customs and usages on Marian feast days. Since most of these usages do not exist anymore, Voragine serves as a valuable source for the study of medieval Marian customs. Theologically, Voragine is one of the first of several Christian writers who view Mary as mediatrix mediator between God and humanity. In the mystical body of Christ, she is the neck through which all graces flow from Christ to his body. This view was later shared by others such as Bernardino of Siena, and, most recently, by one of the noted Mariologists of the 20th century, Gabriel Rossini.